Hey, howdy, hey, true believers, superheroes of DC, Marvel, and all that. My phone's just gone off. Wolfman 47 Dash here. As we all know, there's Marvel, DC. You know what they do? They do superheroes and everything. And although some films have seen better days in more recent years, they've always kind of like dominated the box office in some shape or form, one way or another. But one thing that a lot of people, including myself, do wonder is, what if there was a time what if we got a crossover between the two companies? Now, we've had a lot of different crossovers over the years, some more bizarre than others, and both Marvel and DC are no stranger to that. In fact, more often than not, you'll find that the crossovers between the two companies have actually been in comic book form more so than any other form of media. So there's been a series that's quite literally called DC versus Marvel, which was an attempt by the writers to allow fans to sort of phone in and say which two characters should fight each other, and then they fight to the death and everything. And then there was an anger manium, I think that's how it's pronounced. A sort of crossover in which the DC and Marvel characters would merge, so there'd be characters that basically be a character from DC and a character from Marvel, but they'd be merged together. So, for example, there was one that was Batman and Wolverine, one that's Captain America and Superman, which sounds very relevant now concerning The Boys, and various others. Then there was like sort of solo ones in which they would be focused on a particular team of heroes or particular hero. Like recently, there's been a sort of Superman and Spider-Man crossover, and all sorts. And then as I fix my teeth, came what was arguably one of the most prolific crossovers of them all, which was simply known as JLA/Avengers. JLA standing for Justice League of America, because that's what it was known as before now commonly referring to itself as Justice League, with other variants of it sort of being given its names. But anyway, so that was a series that existed that pitted the Avengers and the Justice League together in a comic book series that would have them be pitted against villains from their respective companies, and things happened. And originally there was meant to be two stories, but only one story ended up because of disputes between both companies at the time. And during the period of time where DC were releasing the DC Universe Animated Original Movies line, its head, as I'm going to call it, I don't know if he is the head, but anyway, Bruce Timm, who you may know, who's a well-known name in the DC Animated Universe, sort of toyed with the idea of possibly making a JLA Avengers crossover film, albeit in animated form, which, to be honest, would probably be the best way, given how things are. So, obviously, we fans have made a lot of attempts to create our own versions of the two companies fighting against each other, which were, of course, very amateur and probably of poor quality. But you know, a lot of us don't get these sort of big budgets that movie studios like to give us. But the idea of having a film was definitely an idea that a lot of people would almost certainly be behind, because how often will we actually see these two great superhero teams excuse me, full of iconic superheroes sort of band together or fight each other on the screen? Because that's a fan's dream come true. Of course it is. So Bruce Timm toyed with the idea in 2009, but sadly it was one of those projects that, although it was hinted at, it never moved forward. And now that Marvel is owned by Disney, and the company that owned DC, which is Warner Brothers, are now owned by Paramount, it's sort of up in the air as to whether the crossover will indeed actually happen or not. Personally, I kind of think it's probably not going to happen, but it's always good to hope, because let's not forget let's not forget fan pressure forced Disney and Warner Brothers to do the different deals that they did. Like it was fan pressure that made it possible for the third Tom Holland Spider-Man film to finally happen and a new deal to be formed between Disney and Sony. and it was fan pressure that forced Warner Brothers to release the Snyder cut of Zack Snyder's Justice League, although they're now still fighting to sort of get the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad, as well as the rest of Zack Snyder's excuse me, Justice League trilogy. As the DC Extended Universe was before the various changes as a result of his departure during what was very much a very sad time for him. So fan pressure is one way to get films going, and it's also a reason why my Coyote versus Acme video is now well and truly aged like fine wine, because that is now definitely happening. The Day the Earth Blew Up has been released now. So yeah, as long as there's pressure, it hopefully may happen one day. Very rarely do we get crossovers on the big screen now. There has been a few crossovers on the big screen, but more often than not, you'll get crossovers more likely on home media and on the small screen, as well as on paper, more so than on the big screen, because I think there's just a different sort of ethos or culture or whatever that makes it more possible in some forms of media, but not everywhere. So yeah. Also bear in mind that companies do own the rights to certain characters and everything. A reason why Disney can't go forward with a solo Hulk or Namor film, because Universal for some reason still hold the rights to those characters, mostly because of theme parks and other reasons as well. So for the JLA and JLA/Avengers movie to happen, fan pressure needs to happen. I would say try and sort of form a petition, but that's obviously unlikely to go through, because petitions are usually focused on government stuff, and they usually sort of dismiss things that are not really to do with government things and everything. But it could still happen. So yeah. And I'm just going to bring up some example crossovers, since that are similar to this. So there's, which are all comic books, by the way. There's Superman vs. The Amazing Spider-Man Battle of the Century, which was released in March 1976, which was the first modern studio intercompany crossover in which Superman and Spider-Man must stop a world domination/destruction plot hatched in tandem by their respective arch nemesis Lex Luthor and Dr. Octavius. Interesting one, that. Also had a sequel in 1981, simply known as Superman and Spider-Man, which pits Superman against the Hulk and Spider-Man against Wonder Woman. Then there was one called The Uncanny X-Men and the New Teen Titans, which was released in 1982, which was a one-shot intercompany crossover featuring the two teams of superheroes, obviously the X-Men and the New Teen Titans, and they team up against the new god Darkseid, aided by Metron, attempting to harness the power of the Phoenix Force. So kind of relevant to the Dark Phoenix in a way. Then also one that's simply known as DC vs. Marvel, which was released in February to March of 1996, which was a 4-issue intercompany crossover miniseries, which obviously pitted the series of both companies against each other in going up against their counterparts. With the outcome of each battle determined by a reader ballot, which was distributed in advance to the comic book stores. Then there's the Amalgam. There we go, got it right. Amalgam crossovers comics, Amalgam Comics. There, I got there. Which was a collaborative publishing imprint shared by DC and Marvel, in which the two comic book publishers merged characters into new ones. And then a more recent one, which is Deadpool, Batman and Batman / Deadpool, which was released in 2025. 2025, which was two one-shot intercompany crossovers, obviously featuring Deadpool and Batman, who team up against the Joker and Cassandra Nova. And there's obviously tons and tons more, but these are just some examples on the Wikipedia page for JLA vs. Avengers. So, will it happen? I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see. We'll see how things go with both companies, because obviously Marvel are not doing too well in terms of how people just being all too familiar with their formula now, and they're just not really changing it. And DC are doing okay, but Warner Bros. Being bought by Paramount sort of raises some questions as to whether their current cinematic universe will still continue under James Gunn and all that. And obviously James Gunn being Obviously, James Gunn, having already worked with Marvel before joining DC, is probably a sort of reassuring sign that maybe he'll consider the crossover if their sort of higher ups are in agreement with it. So yeah, it's possible, but we'll see if it does actually happen. So yeah. So yeah, that's what I've got to say about the JLA / Avengers animated film being made or not. Yeah, just my opinion as always. Fire off in the comments below. Let me know what you think. What if you want it? What you want to happen in it? If it should be a straight up adaptation of the actual comic series, or it should be its own original story, or anything like that. And also your thoughts about whether it should happen or not. Love to hear what you think. Obviously, in a world that's kind of sick of seeing a lot of superhero stuff, probably seeing this is having this happen is probably very highly unlikely, but you never know. But anyway, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you can, please. If you're new to the channel, I do vlogs like these every Thursday. Completely random topic every time. Mondays and Tuesdays I do a gameplay series video, which is like a part of a series of videos of games that I'm playing, alternating between 4 different games. Every Wednesday I do a Let's Play video of a complete random game. And the rest of the week I'll do reviews, hauls, rants on life, videos of friends, gameplay compilation videos when I've bought a game bundle. Oh, excuse me. Shorts. Trying to think if I've missed anything. And loads more. Requests are welcome for all those things. So do say in the comments or anything. Or if you got me on socials or anything, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Instagram, Facebook and others as well. So yep. See you in the next one. Peace to you all. And remember to be amazing, fantastic, super, or indestructible, and whatever else the taglines go about it. And yeah, keep up the fan pressure, and maybe, hopefully one day it will happen, but we shall see. So yeah, alright. Doodles!